Hey y'all. Okay, back to vision number two. This is the second one that I had. And it may not seem like it has any importance. It may sound boring as I begin to get into this, but trust me, it isn't, and it is so deep. And I need your help with understanding, confirmation, and interpretation. I try to remain humble and not be prideful in the gifts that God has given me. And we're a body, so that means sometimes the back may need to be scratched by the hand, the foot may be hurt and need to be rubbed by the hand, the eye may hurt. We're a body, and so we should use our gifts to assist each other. So I'm gonna tell you the dream, and if you have anything that will kind of make it make sense to me, please leave the comment down below. In this dream, if you watch my videos before, I say that there's a difference. I'm sorry about the movement. I don't have the best internet service here. But in the dream, I could smell, and if I can use all of my senses in a dream, then I think it more so to be a divine visitation. I'm not into astral projection or any of stuff like that. And I have no control of my dreams. But this is what happens, and some places seem so real, that it just seems like reality, but a future reality. In this dream, me and four other girls moved into this really big house, and we were going to split the rent. And the purpose of us doing this was because the economy had crashed, and this would be the best way for us to survive. The house was beautiful. The first night of being in the house, I realized that none of the lights upstairs or in the back of the house would work. There were only lights in the front of the house. Okay, so this house gave a perception that was inaccurate, wasn't a good house, obviously. And to me, that means that the house can represent temple places. It was filled with darkness, but it had light on the front to deceive, okay, to invite you in. And it was so beautiful. So I went and said to them, have you all noticed none of the lights are working upstairs in the back of the house? And they were like, yeah, we noticed that. So, we lit some candles or whatever. Well, within a few minutes of doing that, the lady already had some furniture in the house, and inanimate objects would start moving and talking. There were entities that had taken up these inanimate objects. So I go downstairs, and I feel something saying to me, get out of this house now. So I go downstairs, I call everybody down. I was like, look, we got to go. We have to find somewhere else to live. This is, this house tricked us into thinking that it was something it wasn't. Let's get out of here. And I realized in the process of that that house was a portal to the abyss. And spirits were being released. And for some reason, I don't know, but they were possessing inanimate objects, probably with the intention of possessing us, anybody that occupied that area. So we got in our car, we left, and they were like, where we're going to go? And I said, I don't know, I'm just going to drive. As we're driving, I realized that there are checkpoints almost every half a mile, every mile. There were checkpoints with guys in these uniforms that I had never seen before. It didn't look like military uniforms, nor did it like police uniforms. I haven't been able to find a uniform online yet that looks like their uniforms. But they were very militant looking uniforms, and they all had plenty of weaponry, really big guns. Okay, I didn't even see tasers, and I mean like straight, like they were in war. And they were doing these checkpoints, so we stopped, and the guy Ask us, you know, who are you? Where are you going? Why? Just a bunch of questions. And I'm thinking to myself, why, you know, do they have all these checkpoints? Every few miles or so it's a checkpoint. So as we get further down, I realized that the traffic has changed. The traffic was reversed. Usually when you're driving at nighttime, on the left side of you, you see white headlights. And on the right side, where you are, you see red tail lights. Well, there were red tail lights on the other side and white headlights on the opposite side. If you get what I'm saying, almost like in foreign countries where the direction of the traffic on the highways was completely reversed. That tripped me out. That freaked me out. And I'm like, man, we're driving on the wrong side, you know, of the road. And the guy at the next checkpoint, he was like, no, we changed it, you know. And I was like, okay, you know. So I was like, okay, well, they changed it, and this is how you have to drive now. Okay. So as we get further down the interstate, I realized there were no more reflectors on the ground. They used LED lights. And the streets were lit up like something out of the Jetsons, with these LED lights all the way down the middle of the street. They no longer use paint and reflectors. They use LED lights on the street to show the turning lane, to show the separation of the lanes, how many lanes, if you get my drift. So we get to the last checkpoint, and I said, we're just going to go wherever we can find a large group of people so we can make sense of what's happening, because I felt that something had changed and the world was just completely turned upside down. We finally make it to the last checkpoint, and I notice I see almost 1,000 people standing outside in a line. And so we got out the car and we stood in line. As we get closer to the front of the line, I realized they had some type of scanner that would scan us, and this scanner would let them know whether or not I'm assuming we were citizens. I don't know why they were scanning us, but it would read our DNA, who we were. It was no longer just show the driver's license and, you know, you can get in. So they had these scanners would scan your face and everything and identify who you are. So when we got in the inside, we realized it was a club. But y'all, this club was like nothing I've ever seen. It was so huge to where I couldn't see the end or the beginning. Almost like how the horizon is. You can't really see where it begins and ends. This is how huge this club was. And everybody in there were in a trance. The music and the way the lights were being used inside the club had everyone in a trance. And I must say, the music was very... it was hypnotizing. I wish I could like play this music for y'all can hear this, but it sounded like a mixture of techno mixed with dubstep, mixed with hip-hop, and something I've never heard of before. This is what the music sound like. And it had a really upbeat pop tempo. And I realized that there were no bars. They just gave away alcohol. You didn't have to pay for alcohol anymore, or drugs. There were people walking around, waitresses, passing it out. I found that to be odd also. So not only were people in the trance, but everybody in there were under the influence of something. And if you weren't drinking or doing drugs, you appeared to be the oddball. And these same men with these big guns and these uniforms would walk around, pace around the whole club, watching everyone's behavior. And as I said again, if you were not drinking, if you seemed to stand out like a sore thumb, I saw this happen to a few people. The guys in the uniforms would approach them, pull them to the side, and I never saw those people again. So I don't know if the DNA results or something came back and you know, or it was that they weren't drinking and the trance, the music wasn't working on them, making them go in a trance. So they would come and separate you from the rest of the group. And I'm guessing to preserve the mind control that they had over the people there. So I hear this small, still voice, and it said to me, just blend in. And I'm looking at my notes here because I wrote it down. And so I try to blend in, and I'm just dancing. And I looked over to my friends, you know, and I said, listen, I said, just dance and kind of blend. Don't try to look, you know, don't be obvious. Okay. And so we were just trying to, you know, blend in so these guys in these uniforms with these guns wouldn't come and get us. In the process of that happening, I met this light-skinned guy walked up to me. He was like, hey, you're very beautiful. What's your name? I've never seen you here. You know, and I'm like, my name is Kim. I gave some fake name or something. Oh my God, I really had my own personality in this particular vision. And so, you know, I told him my name. So as we were dancing, I heard the Lord say, begin asking him questions. The questions that you've been wanting to the answers to, ask him, but make sure you keep dancing and keep pretending like you're sipping on your drink. So I did that, and the first thing I asked him, I said, how they kept us confined in certain zones in the club. Like I said, it was so huge, and he was just like, we party all day and night. He was like, and I never seen you here before. I said, what do you mean? I said, you don't go to school? You know, you don't work? And he was like, he started laughing, and he was like, no, where are you from? You must be from, what do you say? You must be from the past or something. And I'm thinking to myself, yeah, kind of am. And he says to me, he said, there's no need to go to school. You don't have to go to school if you want to. You know, we've been liberated from that. He says, the world is one big party. We party all day, we party all night. I said, so this place is open 24/7? He said, sure. He said, yes, 24/7, and we party 24/7. And you know, and I was just like, wow. So then I asked him, let's see. Okay. So I said, well, what about spiritual teachings? Do they got, you know, like church? And he said, nope, not that either. And, you know, he said, we stopped teaching eons ago. And that's exactly what he said, eons ago. Then he said, you know, they don't even teach us basic math if we do choose to go to school. And I said, well, how do you know how to count your money? And he says, we don't have money anymore. He says, man, you're so beautiful, but where are you from? You must be from the past or something. Or are you just dumb? You know, are you an airhead? And I was like, no, I think it's the first thing you said. I'm not from this side, you know. But I didn't say anything. And, you know, so there was 2 or 3 people close to us, and I'm assuming someone overheard the conversation we were having and all the questions I was asking him. And I looked down at the floor. Y'all, the floor looked like you were in space. The floor was like a hologram that looked like galaxies, planets, stars. The ceiling was a hologram, looked like galaxy, planets, stars, and the walls. So it gave the feeling, it didn't give the feeling that you were inside a building. You literally felt like you were in space. And that just really tripped me out. So after I had the dream, when I woke up, I recalled the last Super Bowl. And if you notice, the last 2 Super Bowls, they use these holograms. And even concerts, they've been using these holograms. And they can cover the whole floor or the whole stadium Go back and look at the Super Bowl, the one Beyonce performed and the one Madonna performed, and look at the holograms and how they use them. This is how it was, but it was to a whole nother level where you felt like you were floating. You felt like you were actually in space. That was the next thing I noticed. That's probably why it was like the horizon, and I couldn't see where it began and ended when I first walked in. So it didn't give the feeling of being inside a building. So as all of this is happening, you know, I had this guy approach me, and okay, I had this guy approach me, and one of the guys in the uniforms, and he grabbed my arm, and I just kind of looked at him, and I took a sip of my drink and just kind of, you know, I was drunk or something, and so he walked away. I look up a few minutes later and notice he's talking to 2 or 3 other guys in uniforms with the guns. So I guess he was over there discussing with them how I was reacting, or that I stood out or something, or they couldn't find me in the system. But when he approached me, I didn't act like anything was wrong. So I guess he was asking his superiors what should he do. In the process of that happening, with the guy, he says, man, I wish me and you could just spend forever together. He's like, you seem like such a great person, such a beautiful person inside and out. And we made this like connection. I felt this connection. And so I asked him one last thing. I asked him, where are they taking those people they come and get? And he was just like, you don't want to know. He said, we don't know and we don't ask. He said, in the world that we live in now, he says, you'll get killed for asking too many questions. He kind of whispered it to me. And he was just like, can you seem like a really nice person? He said, so don't ask too many questions, because I would hate for something to happen to you, what they do to other people. So I said, so what do? You can't question anything anymore. That means you don't really have the freedom to think or have your own thoughts. And he was just like, we party all day and all night. So they were literally keeping the masses in a trance-like state that was manufactured and intentional. And the world had become one big party. There wasn't a DJ or a DJ booth. The music was just in the air. So it was, you couldn't walk up to the DJ booth and cut it off. I didn't see speakers. So it was almost like the music was coming from satellites or something in space. Like the music was in the air. In this dream, y'all, the thing that spoke to me most was portals opening, inanimate objects, more manifestations of demon possession, houses, which can represent people. Our body is a temple, and they appear to have light, but they are actually of darkness and evil. Actually, when we tried to leave the house, the landlord popped up and tried to convince us to stay. And it was so weird and freakish how hard she was trying to get us to stay in that house. But anyway, like I said, my spirit told me to leave and drive until he told me to stop driving. Another thing, with the lanes being changed, the checkpoints and everything, I think that was something just showing us where we headed and what's about to happen. But also with everything being reversed, and like I said, the cars, there weren't regular lights, everything was LED. And I'm saying LED because I can't think of anything else. It was something, it was like 3 steps away from LED lights, if that makes sense. 3 inventions away from the LED lights. So it was even more bright and pigmented than the LED lights that we have now. And the cars, which is very futuristic looking too. And with everything being reversed, to me, God talks about the narrow path and that many will not find it. But many people will follow the broad road. I thought about that with the roads being reversed. So it's like light became darkness, darkness became light. Driving on the right side of the street became driving on the left, and driving on the left became driving on the right. It was like everything was just pure chaos, perverted, twisted, and completely reversed from what God created it to be. And with the club scene and everything, that just spoke to me, and I couldn't help but thinking that the music that we are about to start hearing is specifically created with a certain frequency to affect our hypothalamus, or some people call it, and pineal gland, third eye, and to keep us in a trance-like state. So music would no longer just be music, it would be music with an intention. And Lucifer was the head of the music of praise and worship in heaven. Even the way his body was orchestrated, he could play music from his body. If you go back, I think, in Ezekiel and read up on this. So all of this made sense when I woke up. So you all, keep that in mind and be very careful about where you go. Things that you buy, especially things from antique stores or yard sales, spirits may be attached to them. And because the abyss is going to be open, it's in the book of Revelations, if I'm not mistaken, and we do know that there are certain demons that God locked under the Euphrates River. They were so bad. So there is, the gates of hell have opened and are releasing spirits, ancient spirits, that have not been on this earth for thousands of years. And that's to bring the judgment, of course. So thank you all so much for your support. If you have anything from this vision that stands out to you, or if you had one, just any information you have, you can give me. Make sure you post it down here. All right. Peace out. Bye-bye.